Hello everybody, CVM here with BBD, and we're going to be doing our deck tech on the deck that I'm battling today with. This is a red-white devotion deck that got second at the Open in LA this last weekend, piloted by Mr. James Gates. The deck's actually...
I want to point out he has 2 gates in this deck.
He does.
Yeah.
Perfect number. This deck's actually very similar to the Red Devotion deck that the Channel Fireball crew had designed for Pro Tour Theros. And I actually think the deck is very well positioned right now. I think that Nykthos is still one of the most powerful cards in the format. And as we keep moving forward in Standard, I think it's just going to be a race to see who can build the best Nykthos deck, really. And this deck takes a good stab at it. In fact, we're playing Burning Tree Emissary with no other cards to cast on turn 2 besides Mizzium Orders off of the mana for Burning Tree Emissary. So that's how that's how important it is to get our devotion. I guess I could cast Rakdos Cackler.
Yeah, you can cackle it up. Cackle it up.
Yes, I can. But yeah, so we have Cackler, Frostburn Weird, Ash Zealot, Burning Tree Emissary, Boros Reckoner, cards that just give us lots of devotion to red, so we can take advantage of Fanatic of Mogis, just 9 our opponent. I plan on doing that a lot today. Hopefully I can make that come true. And we also are playing Hammer of Perforos. So this is a card that a lot of people have compared to Fires of Yavimaya from the past, which was a format-defining card during its time in Standard. And I think that we're just now starting to realize just how awesome this card is, combined with the rest of the Devotion to Red mechanics. So Fanatic of Mogis is very good by itself when we build the right deck for it, but give it haste and it becomes extremely powerful.
Yeah, you're talking about 9ing someone? I think you mean 13ing them. Yeah.
That's the plan. Now, the deck is red-white. As you can see here, we have Temples, Sacred Foundries, and Boros Guild Gates because we have Chain to the Rocks and then some more in the sideboard. So we have lots of mountains in the deck, which allows us to play Chain to the Rocks. And I think it's just a very good removal card, similar to like a Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares. There isn't a whole lot of answers to it in the format, and just being able to 1 mana, get something out, and then continue our building our board is going to be really important.
Yeah, like the difference between this deck and the Channel Fireball deck is they were playing green for like Xenaghost type cards. And I actually think that the white is better right now for Chain to the Rocks. That's basically the one difference, and I think I like Chain to the Rocks a lot more right now.
Chain to the Rocks is very good, especially when we're playing against these, like all the other mid-rangey decks just becomes, an attrition battle where we're all trying to go over the top of each other, and when I can spend 1 mana to handle their card that they spent 4 mana on and then continue building my board, just really catapults me ahead of them, even if they happen to be drawing extra cards at the cost of life, and they lose to the Fanatic of Mogis.
Yep.
So, lastly, at the top of the curve, we have Stormbreath Dragon, which I think is a very good card, especially in this deck where we're going to have access to lots of red mana very quickly. I don't see... I see it being very common around like turn 5 or 6. We can play Dragon and Monster Sit in the same turn, then attack our opponent using Nykthos. And if we even have like a double Nykthos draw where we can make mana, play 1, make some more mana, we just get to blow them up. That's all I want to do is just blow them up right to the dome.
Stormbreath Dragon actually does Monstrous a lot in this deck. A lot of the other decks that played it, like the Naya decks or the red-green decks, like you don't really Monstrous that much. It's just like a mini Thundermaw. Here it actually just goes Monstrous all the time.
Yeah, because we have lots of Devotion to Red. Now, this deck is also very good against the other aggressive decks. So with Mono Black just storming Standard, a lot of people are starting to realize that like the aggressive black-red 1-drop decks are very good against the Mono Black deck. And then we just get to play like Frostburn Weird, Ash Zealot, and Boros Reckoner. They get stonewalled, and then we just beat them up. So this is a deck that has game against the top decks, but it's also very good against the anti-strategies to the top decks right now. And I think this was a very good call this weekend.
Yep. And I guess one thing I want to ask is, like, what are your thoughts on the sweet interaction between Stormbreath Dragon and Hammer of Perforos?
Between Stormbreath... Well, I like having double haste.
Okay.
So when you have double haste, it means you get to attack extra fast. In fact, it doesn't even enter the battlefield and then tap to attack. It just enters the battlefield tapped and attacking.
Exactly.
So I plan on double hasting him out. So this is the main deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboard and see what sweet options I have for my 5-color aggro deck. All right, here we are for the sideboard for the red-white devotion deck. Now we have Mizzium Orders and 3 Chain to the Rocks, so we can go up to 4 of each against a bunch of creatures if we need to, which is fairly important. We have a bunch of small-ish creatures ourselves, so we don't have the option of playing with Anger of the Gods. So we want as many efficient single target removal spells as possible. And since we can generate 1 billion red mana, overloading Misery Mortars is going to be a reality most of the time anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the norm.
Now we do have 4 Boros Charm and 4 Fire Drinker Satyr. And so these are for the control deck. So we just want another cheap threat to make us fast. Also, since we have Nykthos and can make a bunch of mana, I mean, I imagine we'll be able to pump Fire Drinker Satyr a bunch at some point. It's a little risky, but I mean, you're not going to play Fire Drinker Satyr and Nykthos and not take a bunch of damage. So we do have Boros Charm. It plays the same role that it does in the Boros aggro deck, where we're just using it as a way to save our team against a Supreme Verdict. But it also does a good job of just doing 4 damage to Jace when you need it to. We also have 2 Assemble the Legion and a Perforos. So I guess I should have put these together since they go hand in hand. Both of these cards are very good against the mono black deck, as well as any like Esper type control decks, the Supreme Verdict decks. The games tend to go very long, and an unchecked Assemble the Legion is just going to take over any game that it's a part of. And Perforos just gives you an additional way to make the card even better than it already is.
Yeah, like there's a lot of ways to beat Assemble the Legion. Like mono black has Illness in the ranks, and the blue decks have Jace +1, and Perforos just kind of like doesn't care about either of those.
They still enter the battlefield.
Yeah, they still enter the battlefield, and Perforos can even pump them through Jace too.
Yeah, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
So rather than Sunhome Guildmage, we can just play Perforos, God of the Forge. So whereas in the Naya deck that Brad had played in the Invitational, Sunhome Guildmage allowed them to pump through Jace. This is even better because we can just make them a 6/5 most of the time anyways. So here's the sideboard for the red-white Devotion deck. I'm excited to see how much damage that I can do with Fnatic Mogus. And hopefully Soldier of the Pantheon doesn't just beat the crap out of me, because that's probably what's going to happen. So we'll see you guys in the battles.